Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tagged Podcast Season 2, Episode 10. We're at the double-digit point of the season now. Check us out on Spotify. We are uploading every single podcast to Spotify religiously this season, and we will be going forward. So, definitely check that out. We'll get into a quick speed run of the PickEms recap, and then a couple things from the Sunday slate of games, and then we are going to talk trade deadline. That ended about 30 minutes ago as of recording, so we'll get into that. Then we'll do some stocks, some pick'ems, just standard episode stuff. Elijah, if you would like to get them into the pick'ems recap.
Yep, so once again we were very similar on our picks, but we were not 100% similar. So I went 11-4 and you went 10-5, our only disagreement being on the Rams-Seahawks outcome. And that puts me at a total of the year at 88-52. And, I started off the year a little slow, had a little lull there, and I'm glad to say I've almost caught up to you, as your year record is 90-48. So I'm just two behind you there, but, the locks of the weeks definitely is a gap that will sustain itself. I'm 5-4 on the year, and you are 7-2 on the year, but I'm hoping I really rebound for the entire rest of the season and at least match myself with how good I was last year. But we can go ahead and kind of get into the more game-specific recap here now.
Real quick, just to touch on the locks. It does get more difficult as the year goes on because you lose members of the pool that you can pull from, especially with how you play it. I play a little fast and loose with that rule because I don't check it very religiously. But yeah, Thursday Night Football. Texans Jets, that was not a fun game to watch. That was another in the sophomore slump for CJ Stroud, very much related to the offensive line having issues and his weapons refusing to be healthy, along with most of the NFL.
Yeah, and it's not fun seeing Aaron Rodgers be good. I feel he started that game off slow, and be good still feels like it's a stretch. Like he's getting back there. He's got his chemistry back with Devontae there. So there's better production from the offense on his side now. But I still don't. He's not as good as he was. But I feel like everyone's going to talk about Aaron Rodgers like he is as good as he was, and he's so back, and we're going to go so far now because we made this trade. It's not fun because of the amount of media that Aaron Rodgers gets. And CJ Stroud, he's young and he was electric, and now seeing him kind of falter, it sucks. And yeah, it's not really at a fault of himself because he was pressured 19 times on Thursday Night Football. And this was a Jets team that has been good on defense. They made a coaching change. They were significantly worse on defense. And now we don't really know where they stand because it's they kind of had a freebie against an offensive line that's very weak. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. But
yeah, speaking of coaching change, if we want to get into the real coaching change, we can talk about the Saints and how they fired Dennis Allen. It only took them losing to the Panthers and 7 straight after he said, "Sometimes you just gotta pop out and show them." Dennis, maybe don't do that.
Please stop popping.
Please stop popping, Dennis. Derek Carr has now gotten Dennis Allen fired twice in midseason because he got him fired from the Raiders as well. And this was also a really nice Bryce Young redemption game is what I'll call it. I almost called it a revenge game, but it's just redemption. He was happy. He got to kneel the game out, and that's just not something he's been able to do thus far. Mm-hmm. And it really, I think it's really unfortunate that Dave Canales wasn't willing to commit to him as their starter moving forward, or even for this week.
It's not like a very electric game stat-wise for Bryce Young, but it was a team that, they, as you said, they haven't won much so far this year. And Dave Canales kind of stripped Bryce of all confidence, and now here he is with confidence. He got to kneel a game out, and okay, you can at least say anything positive instead of it's kind of dismissive the way he answers it, as opposed to at all shedding a positive light on Bryce and how he helped the team win that day. The Dennis Allen firing does come at a very, very funny stat that had been broken. If you know what I put the 275 to 1 stat here is the record.
I wasn't paying that much attention to the box score of that game. I thought Bryce Young threw for 275 and a touchdown. So I was like, oh, okay, so he put Bryce Young's stats there. I see now that it's got a little link on it, so I'm gonna click on that and figure out what you're talking about.
Yeah, you go read it for the people. Learn with the people as we are.
Per Bill Barnwell on Twitter, Saints outgained the Panthers by 150 plus yards, ran for 150 plus yards, and won the turnover battle. Over the last 20 years, teams had gone 275-0 with that formula. Now it's 275-1, and that reminds me of the. Oh God, there was some game recently where a team ran for a certain amount of yards or gained a certain amount of yards. It was a really similar stat where it was like no team has ever lost in this scenario.
Last season or this season?
No, it was this. It was like last week, and it was another one of those scenarios. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's there. I feel like we're in the era of stat collecting where you can find an anomaly in any game. And it can be cool to see like, wow, this is a historic level of sucking from Dennis Allen. But I feel like you can also look at any other game where there's like a significant, like if a team has the ball for a certain amount of time and you're like, wow, this team's had the ball for a really long time, but they're still like losing. And you can be like, oh, well, no team has ever held the ball for more than 60% of possession time and like not outgained
enough
the opponent by a certain
caveats put on it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna make a unique scenario there.
Yeah.
And I'll say that I feel like this isn't that far. Like
no, it's not. It's definitely not.
It'll be like during this phase of the moon on a Tuesday. Like, what do you mean on a Tuesday? Football's not played on. It's like that's just thrown in there.
Yeah.
And it makes it unique. But
no,
we can move off of this game for sure here if you want to tackle a couple of the funny things we saw refs decide to do.
I think
Sunday.
The Lions game in general is just funny because we saw Amon-Ra St. Brown mimic the UIW touchdown celebration. UIW is like 30 minutes from my house, so that's kind of neat. But there's a UIW player who did a headstand as a touchdown celebration, got flagged for it, and then Drake London.
The guy was like right in front of his face.
It's like it's not even that excessive of a celebration. And then Amon-Ra did it, and he did it really well. And Drake London tried it, and his was a little bit crooked. I don't know if you saw the pictures of his.
I did, yeah.
But it was not quite as smooth as the UIW player or Amon-Ra's.
Amon-Ra.
And then we also got a really funny grab of Brian Branch flipping off the refs. And then
That's
Kirby Joseph,
an all-time classic.
Kirby Joseph on his Instagram story.
I want that framed right there.
that'd be a hard picture to have in the background. Did you see the tweet I sent you from Kirby Joseph's Instagram stories?
No, I did not.
Check that. I'll throw some screenshots up on it, up on the screen for y'all, just to show you what we're looking at right now. It's from the Detroit Times.
Okay. Is this the one you shared an hour ago, or?
It was yesterday, a day ago. The one I shared an hour ago is just the Commanders posting a picture of Kermit.
Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
All right, Kirby Joseph. I'm gonna click into these individually because, one of them had a little caption.
I assume that's the Brody was just trying to hand out an umbrella. Brody just wanted to say he loves spicy chicken. Guitar.
God. The guitar is good.
The guitar is good.
I love the first one. No, bro's just trying to hand out an umbrella.
It's so fucking random.
Kirby Joseph is hilarious, man.
Yeah.
I think he tweeted. I think it was on Twitter, but he tweeted out like the free Jamo, free BB, and it's super to the end zone. I'm a happy man or something silly. Like he's just hilarious. He refers to himself as Superman with a Z.
Okay. Interesting. Why?
Don't know. I really don't know. He got given the game ball after the game, and he's like, it's Superman. It's like, what are you talking about?
Okay,
Kirby Joseph. But yeah, on the iconic photography of the Brian Branch ejection, I don't think the hit was worthy of the ejection.
It was absolutely worthy of a flag. Like, that was a bad
that
hit.
was for
it was
sure.
Helmet to helmet. You could have thrown like targeting or something.
Lowered crown a little bit. Like, makes sense.
But like, for New York to be like, hey guys, throw that motherfucker out the game. Like, what?
and you know what? It's with the end results of the game and how it ended in Brian Branch, luckily not being a as crucial like gap on the defense for the remainder of the game, thanks to Kirby Joseph picking off Jordan Love.
It's okay. Josh Allen is not throwing picks. You got to throw the Josh name in there somewhere.
I'm just so used to calling out a Josh for picks. It's crazy.
Yeah, Allen, Rosen. I'm sure there's another one.
Yeah. Yeah, Favre, Josh Favre, everyone knows him.
Absolutely. Yeah, he defrauded an entire state, didn't he? Anywho.
But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, the ejection was worth it just to get that photo on the internet of Brian Branch.
Sure. No,
really just being unhappy.
I'll get you a giant framed picture of Kirby Joseph or of Kirby Joseph's Instagram stories. So I'll get you one. I'll get you one. I don't have an umbrella in here. But I'll get you a bunch of different ones.
I don't own an umbrella.
I do. It's just not in my room. There was also another ejection. It was Puka. He kind of threw a punch after getting shoved, and it was just kind of a weak ejection altogether. But
yeah,
we can
the refs were on one for sure.
Yeah, we can move on to Sunday Night Football though, which was Colts and Vikings, and that was I think a little bit too close of a game. It makes me really think about if the Vikings are legit after having that many opportunities and just, I mean, Darnold was just chucking that thing straight to the defense.
Yeah, it was as you said, the Colts had an opportunity the whole game of making it close or getting a lead, and they consistently didn't. And notably, as we both watched live of the I think there was too much time left to call it what could have been a game-winning one, but like it could have been a game-winning drive. I mean, for the Colts, and you're a few yards away from a first down, and you have a running back who's in the flat, and he's kind of wide open, and he's kind of standing there, a little statuette, and he does a whole little hitch, and then he kind of does a whole nother one, and then he throws it into completely double-covered guy downfield, as opposed to picking up. I think it was a second and two.
It was a 3rd and 2. The running back was in the flat, and the linebacker that was on him was like 6 yards off of him. So there was, and the problem that they're having with Anthony Richardson is that he's not taking the check down. So having him sit and watch a guy who also just refuses to take a check down is not the right option. Like, that's not how he's going to learn. He's already gotten the mental reps, so it's not like he's getting more mental reps. It's that he needs to watch a good example of what to do with the ball. And Joe Flacco is very much a fuck it, that guy's down there somewhere kind of quarterback. Like, he was that last year for the Browns, and it worked great for them because they had Amari Cooper and they had Nick Chubb for part of the year, and they had like a decent enough rushing attack. They had a decent offensive line and a really good defense. So if Joe Flacco succeeded on a deep shot, great. If he didn't, all right, defense is going to get the ball back anyways. So there wasn't really a downside. But when you're the Colts and you don't have that luxury, you need him to be hitting the check down and just playing a game manager role, which is just not something that he's able to do. And seeing them bench a guy who would throw a lot of picks but would also score a lot of touchdowns for a guy who couldn't lead a touchdown scoring drive is just really unfortunate. Because did their offense score a touchdown by the end of the game?
They scored 13.
Okay, so no, they didn't.
So
because they had 10 points, and it was like it was a one-score game. I think it was 17-10, and I was looking at it and I was like, their offense has orchestrated one drive that has gotten them points, because their touchdown was on a strip sack and it was walked into the end zone. There was no no skill to that play outside of getting the strip sack. So there was no point in the game where the Colts were playing better. And this is after being like, okay, this guy's going to give us the best chance to win. And he just absolutely did not. So I got beef with the Colts organization for that one.
And we had our conversation as well about, like, is this the time to make the AR benching, because you're going to be coming against a team with, like, pretty exotic blitzes that you might want the veteran to be able to dissect, but also the veteran is a statue in the pocket that if the pressure gets home, he's not going to do much with it. So, like, there's the flip side of AR dissecting it and knowing, oh, okay, they aren't sending all of these people, versus, like, oh, if they do send all these people, he can actually make a play. Like, it was basically just stand in the pocket and Flacco under pressure and pressured throws all night for the Colts. And, like, that's exactly what we thought it might look like. And it just feels like they're not really making the best decision with what they did to Anthony Richardson. And we'll see how they stick to their guns for, oh, Flacco's our guy for the rest of the year. We'll see if that actually ends up being true.
Yeah. We can move into Monday Night Football, though. There's 2 points that I want to make about the refs in this game. Two notable things that I was like, don't like that call. And I think there were some really ticky-tack calls against the Chiefs as well. So I do want to call that out. I just don't have those specifically in mind to talk about. But there was one where D-Hop flopped really hard after committing an illegal block in the back, and it was like immediately clear. I didn't even think he got touched, because I was like, wow, there was no motion from the DB to push him or shove him or touch him at all, and he just went flying. And then in the replay, it was like he shrugged him off a little bit, and then D-Hop just dove to the ground.
The guy's arm is out in the air around him, and
like, and even if he did like shrug him off a little bit, it's because he just got blocked in the back. Like, he just got shoved into the ground from his back. So yeah, he's going to be a little bit unhappy when he gets up. And then it wasn't the last play of the game, but close to it in overtime. Yeah. The false start by the right tackle, which was called a lot last year and then eventually not. And then this year, first week or two, every single play basically for a lot of teams was, oh, there's a tackle lined up in the backfield, tackle lined up in the backfield, tackle lined up in the backfield. And I watched him on that play, and I thought he was a tight end because he was lined up so far off the center. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe the crown of his helmet was just like in line with the center, like the back of the center. Like, maybe it was like pixel perfect so that it didn't get called. But I feel like if you're going to allow tackles to jump back as the snap is like a split second before the snap, because that's basically what they ruled, was like you can start your motion a little early. You have to still be lined up in line with the center when you start that motion. So I feel like if the ball is snapped and you're back here in your stance already, I feel like you should still have to be in line with the center, or that should be an illegal formation or an illegal shift or whatever the flag is for. So I just like whatever it was, that was not a clean play by the right tackle, and he's notorious for not having clean plays. So I just really didn't like not making that call inside the 10-yard line in overtime, like when they're about to win the fucking game.
The overtime like puts that extra emphasis on the poor refereeing of that, because if that happened in the first quarter, like, no one really cares.
It's like, yeah, it's annoying to see, but
towards the end of a game, it's always more heightened. With Javon Taylor himself, like, it's very interesting the way he's had like penalties be called against him, because he wasn't like, he's become the most penalized tackle, and it was when he became a Chief. And like, it's interesting that the rules, like the way they put the emphasis on, like, oh, we're going to really emphasize the illegal formation this year, and last year it was the quick starts. And I watched that playback, and I don't agree that he was lined up in, like, it wouldn't have been an illegal formation in my eyes. I thought, like, he seemed lined up where the other tackle was, and the other tackle seemed lined up in the, like, it's just kind of the camera angle.
Okay.
But I did see, like, he started before the ball was snapped, and it's like, it's such a bang bang quick second thing that maybe the tight end that was right, like, that was on his side, because there was the tight end on both sides of the offensive line, might have obscured the ref's vision of that. but it's impossible to know because we don't have like the ref vision. We should have them wear body cams.
Oh
damn
my
it.
God, yes. But we should. I mean, the back judge should also catch that. Like he should see that tackle moving out of the corner of his eye if he's watching for the snap or what. Like there should be somebody that's catching that. I don't know. That's just. I feel like that's just such an easy thing to catch when.
Yeah.
I saw it live and I was half paying attention to the game watching it on my phone. So like, I feel like if I'm able to see it from afar watching on my phone, I feel like there should be at least one guy that's standing on the field that can see that happening. But I don't know. I don't really think it would have mattered. I don't know if it would have changed anything.
They were pretty close to the end zone there. And
sure, back them up 5 yards for a false start.
They have their whole
really
bag of tricks
anything?
they pull out when they enter the red zone.
The trade deadline has now passed. It is over. And so every move that will be made mid-season has been made by now. So we are going to go ahead and go through all of the trades that have been made, tell you if they were good trades, bad trades, if we like them, if we don't like them, if we think it was an overpay, an underpay, yada, yada, yada. There will be some in here that we just don't have anything to say anything on. And we may skip over some. So if there's somebody that we just didn't mention or didn't talk about at all and you want us to elaborate a little bit, just drop it down in the comments down below and we'll respond to y'all. But do you want to kick it off with the first trade that happened this near deadline, which was Amari Cooper to the Bills?
Yeah. Amari Cooper, he was traded with a 6th round pick, and it was in exchange for a 3rd round pick and a future 7th from the Bills. And this was kind of a team that they were pretty good, like still 7-2, and they needed the wide receiver weapons. Keon was not developing as they wanted him to, not quick enough, and so they made that move. And the first week with Amari, it was like immediate. He got a touchdown, and then the second week, it's not so much like what Amari Cooper produced stat-wise, but it's the fact that Keon Coleman was able to have a come-around game. And when you have a wide receiver one aura, callback, if you know, you know, then, you get those opportunities for your other wide receivers. So big fan of the trade when it happened. We've seen a little bit of what the team looks like with him on it, and so I think it's kind of a home run hit for them, especially with the compensation of it's a 3rd and a future 7th, and then you're getting a 6th. So to me, like the future 7th is kind of negligible given the compensation you're getting as well. So you're not going to get an Amari Cooper for a 3rd round, and you need it this year to help compete in this division, in this conference, not division. So yeah, I think it was a no-brainer move for them, and it'll pan out really well for them moving forward.
Yeah, I think he was out this week with injury, but I mean, yeah, his like you said, wide receiver one aura is good for the team to have, and something that they were definitely lacking. And Keon Coleman has really started to come into his own. I know he got hurt this past week, but he was really starting to pop off when Amari Cooper got there, and that's just always good to have. Next up, we've got the Raiders trading Devontae to his old buddy Aaron Rodgers and the Jets for a conditional 3rd round pick. And before the trade happened, this was such a heavily rumored thing that we had already talked about it a little bit. I wasn't the biggest fan of the idea of this, but now that Lazard is down and they've traded Mike Williams, I kind of feel like they probably made out well on this trade. It doesn't fix all their problems, but it does make an improvement at a position that they kind of needed help at. They ended up needing help at. So it was almost like a preemptive trade that worked out really well for him.
Yeah, I think that the conditional 3rd is a nice price point for them. Obviously the Raiders could have gotten a lot more if Devontae Adams wasn't dealing with a hammy. It's just, the Raiders were in a tough spot with Devontae after letting getting Derek Carr out of there. Like, yeah, they weren't going to get a lot for him, and he's not been the most productive. He was slightly injured, and there was really only one place he was going to go play, and it was going to be with Aaron Rodgers. Like, the Saints were a contender, but then they started dropping games, so that was out the window. Moving forward, yeah, this was a great timing-wise thing to happen because, yeah, the wide receiver room's a little worse for wear now, but he's got Devontae who can target 11 times in a game. and he knows he's going to have him come down with at least a touchdown in that range. So good trade there.
Yeah.
And then next we got the Titans, who traded Ernest Jones, who they acquired at the start of this year, to the Seahawks in exchange for Jerome Baker and a 4th-round pick. And it's okay. The Titans aren't obviously getting that much out of it. The Seahawks are the ones buying low here with how the Titans performed. But the Seahawks are kind of at that point where they needed an Ernest Jones. Like Jerome Baker upgrade over, they're not equal players. This isn't a lateral move. They are definitely upgrading the linebacker position. I like Ernest Jones a lot. So I have the Seahawks here, made a good move. We'll see how it pans out for them after we've kind of had our doubts about where the Seahawks were heading this year. But it's low cost. They get a guy they can very much use on that defense.
Yeah, I also think the trade the Titans made for Ernest Jones was cheaper than this trade that the Seahawks made for him, so they just gained capital. Like, they held him for 8 games and then got additional picks in for having him. So I don't think it's a bad decision, especially if he didn't want to be there anymore, if he was seeing, hey, y'all aren't winning. So yeah, definitely, I think it's just a win-win for both sides there. Honestly, the Titans gain some capital, the Seahawks gain a good player. And then Ernest Jones gets to go somewhere that might win a couple more games than the Titans.
Yep. And then the Titans, they kind of had a nice little fire sale as they also got rid of DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs for a conditional 5th, which was in our, trade video of predictions. My comp was a little higher. But yeah, it's clear that has panned out well for the Chiefs. They had a little bring him along game. They got him 3 targets his first game there, and then this past week, overtime win over the Bucs. It's a 9-target game, 8 receptions, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns, which is highs for this year for D-Hop. It's no secret that the Titans were not operating a very functional offense, and you combine Nuke with Andy Reid, and it's going to be pretty productive for both for the team. So. Yeah, I really quite like this trade, as the Chiefs fan in me, and I think that it's a big addition to a hurt wide receiver room.
Yeah, no, it's a home run for the Chiefs for sure. It's such a cheap trade for a good receiver who's probably going to be there for, I don't know. I could see him retiring after this year, but even if he's a 1-year rental, he gets you to the point where you've got Rashee Rice healthy, and you get to another draft class where you may be able to add another receiver if you need to. So. There really isn't a downside for a conditional 5th-round pick, because even if it is a 5th-round pick, you're not getting. I mean, D-Hop could tip the scales and make them a Super Bowl contender again. Obviously, undefeated. It's hard to say that they weren't a Super Bowl contender being the Chiefs, but I didn't like how the fashion that they were winning games in, and I think with D-Hop they can tip back to the actually handedly winning these games. Again, it's tough to say that coming off of an overtime win, but I think they can start actually beating opponents instead of just squeaking out these wins. But next up, we have the Chiefs again making a move. This time it's the Patriots trading Josh Uche to the Chiefs for a 2026 6th. He was signed on as like a 1-year, $3 million prove-it deal, and obviously he and the organization didn't want to continue that arrangement, so getting anything out of a guy who's not going to stick around past this year, I guess, is good. He's not going to tip the scales between us being contenders and not. So I don't hate the move for the Patriots getting off of a guy like that. I do think it would have been nicer to get a little bit more capital, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I think for the Chiefs, it's, if you compare the cost of what it took to get D-Hop versus this, it's a little odd. But yeah, I think it was kind of just a luxury thing that they were going to throw this in to help get aspect of the defense a little more depth. So I don't hate it. It's cheap enough where it's like, oh, I'm not going to be upset. It's not like they give up a 4th or a 3rd. It's a nice, cheap move to just kind of help the team at the chances of that 3-peat.
Yeah. Then we got the Panthers trading Deontay Johnson and a 6th to the Ravens for a 5th. And this is another trade of the Ravens where they really aren't losing that much capital. We'll get to another trade where they did basically the same thing. But this is great. I mean, I don't think the Ravens had as big of a need at receiver as a team like the Chiefs because they didn't really have any injury issues there. But I feel like the Ravens are always kind of starved for a good receiver. They're always kind of reaching at the end of the first round for somebody who can make a difference. And they'll get guys who are really good at one thing but just aren't a complete package. So adding more guys to that receiver room is never a bad thing, especially at that price.
Yep, it's a good trade for the Panthers as well, getting a 5th rounder out of this when this year is basically a wash, and you just want to stockpile capital and understand that you got to rebuild next offseason.
Yeah.
Next up is the Jaguars trading Cam Robinson along with a conditional 7th round pick of 2026 to the Vikings for a conditional 2026 5th round pick. No brainer for the Vikings, especially with Darisaw and his injury. This is going to be a crucial move for their depth and the flexibility of their pieces on the O-line. Just moving forward, if any more injuries happen, like they have a good piece that they can trust starting. So it's great for the Vikings, and I hated to see it as a Lions fan.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with everything you said. Losing Darisaw sucks. Adding a quality tackle through trade is something that basically never happens. So the fact that they were able to make it happen and it wasn't expensive is really nice to see for them. So that's basically all the trades that happened prior to the deadline, which was Tuesday, today, the 5th of November at 4 Eastern. So now we're going to get into the trades that happened on the deadline, which is always just a little bit more exciting because it's you're beating a deadline.
You see the clock. It counts down. You're thinking like, okay, when's my team going to make this move? It's exciting for sure.
Yeah, and it's all in one day instead of just like these past trades have been over the past week or two. So it's like, oh, wow, a trade happened. All right, go to sleep, wake up. Oh, wow, another one. This is like a trade happened, refresh the feed. Another one. Wow. So
yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll kick us off with what I think was the first of the day. I mean, obviously it was the first on my radar of the Browns trading Zadarius Smith to the Lions. They also traded a 2026 7th to the Lions, and the Lions gave up a 5th in this year and then a 2026 6th round pick. Thanks. This is exactly kind of what I had in mind with the Lions in my prediction. Getting the cheaper edge rusher to kind of help bolster a more complete D-line. I don't think our D-line has played necessarily poor. I think that Ali McNeil and DJ Reader have definitely stepped up since Aiden Hutchinson's injury. And this isn't a replacement for Aiden Hutchinson. You're not going to see the D-line go to the productivity it had with Aiden Hutchinson, but you are going to see it improve. I mean, just against the Titans recently, like you're not playing an elite team, and it felt like we had no pressure, and then we play the Packers, and it feels like we have no pressure, and something needs to change, despite the fact that I know our guys are making good moves and they're getting slight pressure. It's just not happening quick enough with enough guys. So adding another guy to make those big third downs lean in our favor, I am definitely a fan of.
yeah, I think this is a bit of an expensive half-year rental is my only concern with that, because there's a lot of talk of, oh, the Lions can cut him after this year with no dead cap hit. And it's like, cool, but now you've traded a 5th and a 6th for a 7th and 8 games of an edge rusher, which is, don't get me wrong, it's exactly what the Lions need. It just feels a little bit expensive when you think it's 2 draft picks. 7th rounders to me are basically just like run 20 yards back and throw a dart and see where it lands, and maybe you hit something. But I just see it as a little bit of an expensive 1-year rental. If they can get like another year out of him, I think it'll absolutely be worth it. And if he makes a big difference this year, then obviously it's worth it. If he ends up being a top edge rusher for him, then
yeah. My only counterpoint for that is it's hopefully going to be more than 8 games, and that's the reason why the move's happening is the hopeful return of Hutch in the Super Bowl, as it's kind of keep being talked about as like this could be the absolute earliest he could come back. That would be the hope that we make it there, and this move helps us try to make it there.
Yeah, still 11 games, whatever, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Then next trade today was the Panthers sending Jonathan Mingo, another one of their receivers, and a 7th round pick to the Cowboys for a 4th round pick. Now, Elijah, over the past, we'll call it 4 games, how many catches do you think this guy that just got traded for a 4th-round pick has? You know, it's got to be pretty good, right? He's got to be a pretty good.
Yeah, you got to compare it. Really, it's like there's Amari Cooper, that was a 3rd. Devontae Adams, that was a 3rd. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is the conditional 5th. Like that's basically, you could think high end 4th for that. And so he's probably got like 400 yards on the year. He's got to be a pretty solid guy just on a bad team, right?
Yeah. What if I told you over the past 4 games he has a single catch? 1.
Is it a 98-yard catch?
No, it's not. It was like a 1-yard catch, actually.
Impressive stuff. The Cowboys, Jerry Jones, why make this move? You've needed wide receiver help probably starting like 3 weeks ago, and now Dak's hurt. And it's like, yeah, we'll make our moves now. It's deadline time. Let's have some fun. It's all about entertainment down in Jerry's world, all right? Like, shut up.
I can't wait for Trey Lance to throw for 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 2 picks for the rest of this season. And Dak just stays benched after he comes back from IR. Jonathan Mingo turns into an all-pro player, and we all just look silly for this. But
Jonathan Mingo, Triple Crown winner, despite only playing half the year, really.
Something like that, yeah. But moving on to, I think, probably the biggest trade of the deadline. We had some receiver moves, but this is like a guy in his prime. For the most part, I think maybe a year past it, but this is Marshawn Lattimore plus a 5th-round pick going to the Commanders for a 3rd, 4th, and 6th-round pick. This is the biggest hole on the Commanders roster is DB, and they added what I would assume is probably the best player that was available to them at the deadline.
Yeah,
and this is home run trade. I'm a little bit higher, I think, on Marshawn Lattimore than you are, but I definitely think this was a great trade for the Commanders.
Yeah, I'd say Marshawn Lattimore, to me, he's a few more years past prime, but he's still good. He's still a great player, and you're giving up a lot in terms of what this, trade deadline has shown us. These are like nice little penny pinching trades everyone's making, besides the Cowboys for whatever damn reason. And the Commanders, they're giving up more of a haul than everyone else we've mentioned so far, but they're getting a crucial piece to the team that can help bring along the younger guys that they need to help be brought along, because they've really been struggling in that department. And yeah, I'm a big fan of this trade. Like, I didn't need to be that big of a fan of Marshawn Lattimore when he was with the Saints. It's simply that I know what the Commanders have right now and what they need right now. And this is a perfect, cohesion. Like, the Lions with Zadarius Smith. Like, that's way lower tier on, where I am hype about it, because the Commanders, it's a bigger void, I feel, and it's a bigger improvement of quality of player you have. It's better quality over the replacement that they are moving down the depth chart because of it. And, yeah, it's a home run hit. I think, honestly, out of all of the trades, this is my favorite when I remove any team bias of the deadline day. Now, DeAndre Hopkins, with the cost of that, that's kind of a no-brainer for best overall. But for deadline day, Marshawn Lattimore is a huge one, for sure.
Yeah, and I think the funniest part to me as a Patriots fan is just seeing Patriots fans and Commanders fans talking, because Christian Gonzalez was picked 1 pick after Emmanuel Forbes, and Forbes is now benched. So they could have had a lockdown corner in the draft and then kept all their picks, but it is what it is, and having a bad corner kind of helped them get Jaden Daniels and have a bad enough season to get some good draft picks. So I can't say that it's
it ushered in a new regime, and now they're 7-2. They can't really be that mad about Gonzalez.
They're 7-2. We're 2-7. I can't say that we're better off. But yeah, then we get into one of your predictions from back in our trade prediction video. That was almost bang on. The Jets trading Mike Williams to the Steelers for a 5th. I think you had him going for a 6th. But
I think that was a kind of trend throughout all of my predictions, is I was basically around high on most of the trade compensations. But I got all the players and the teams right, -1. I got the Commanders getting a much worse corner. Thank goodness they didn't do that. Yeah, more power to them.
Who was it that you had them trading for?
I had them getting Greg Newsome II.
That's right. Okay. Forgot about
But
that.
talking about the Jets and Mike Williams, good move for the Steelers. You know, good cost. I don't have a lot to talk about the Steelers on. Don't have a lot to talk about the Jets on that we haven't already said.
I don't love this move, honestly. I feel like Mike Williams is well
A little
past
past.
anything.
Yeah.
And that's a 5th round pick. Like, if you think about it in terms of this is what DeAndre Hopkins went for, it gets a little bit tougher to swallow that pill for the Steelers. But again, if he balls out, that's all that matters. We can't condemn any of these trades without seeing them in action. Maybe Mike Williams just wasn't being properly utilized, and maybe he's still recovering from his injury last season. So we really can't say anything until we see him suit up for the Steelers. And wide receiver was a big need for them. So, but now we get into the last trade of the day, which was the Rams sending Tre'Davious White and a 2027 7th round pick to the Ravens for a 2026 7th round pick.
Wow.
This is another this is another one of like the Cam Akers trade. This is, we're cutting this guy. Does anybody want him? This is the trade that's going to go through. And I think you looked into the situation a little bit more than I did, but I know that Trey White wasn't making a difference on the Rams, and so they were going to cut him. And the Ravens were like, let's avoid the whole waiver claim situation and let's just get him now.
Yeah, and let's just do a nice little swap here of far future 7s here and get this done. So the situation with Trey White was, he's coming off of this oft injured status he's kind of had in the league. And he came in and he played the first 4 games of the year, and then he became a healthy scratch for the team, being benched, not playing, just inactive, not soon up on game days since the 4th game of the year. And when you have a guy who's just kind of riding along, we're going to cut him, it's a fair trade. The Ravens have been struggling on the pass defense, so they're getting a guy they hope will help. If he's not helping the Rams, who have a pretty scarce DB room, I'm not sure what help he brings to the Ravens except for some extra depth. Maybe he'll see the field and actually produce better than he did with the Rams. We'll have to see. But it comes at really no cost to the Ravens, so why not try it?
And maybe he's just going to be a mentor to Nate Wiggins. That's also a real possibility. Drafting a young corner and seeing how that goes. But that is all we got for the trade reactions segment. If y'all want to let us know your thoughts on these trades, let us know if you agree, disagree. If you want our thoughts on any other players that we didn't mention, definitely drop those down in the comments below. If you're here for just the segment video, check out the podcast dropping tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central on Spotify and YouTube. Check both those out. And we will get into our NFL stocks.
So I believe with the snake way we've been going, it started with you last week. You went no decision. I went no decision on mine as well. Now it's starting off with me for this week, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a decision on a team here. And it's not because I don't have faith in them moving forward. In fact, they've actually started to hit like this part of the season when they kind of hit a prime, but it's just such a good boost of profit for me that I would prefer to have money in the bank for a late stretch of picking up some of the other teams that I think are a little cheaper here, a little bit more room for growth. And that team I'm selling is going to be both of my Bengals stocks. Gonna wipe the slate clean. At purchase, I bought those for $200 a pop. Currently selling them for $450 a pop, and I'm happy to add that money into my bank just for some future purchases. And with that money in my bank, I'm sitting at $1,300. I'm feeling comfortable to kind of get some of those more premium teams that I'm more confident that will stay the course and improve week to week. And now it occurs to me they play each other this week, so it's like, oh. But the Ravens, I'm kind of eyeing for that. I could have held on to them, and, whoever won, then I'm not really taking a loss because the other one goes up. But I'll stick with what my choice has been because I need the money to buy them. And that's going to be buying an additional Ravens stock. I bought it originally for 500. They're currently sitting at 675. So the ceiling's a little capped here, but stable income is something I'm just looking to get with a little bit more than the up and down season the Bengals have had given their defense. So I'm going to be going ahead and dropping another 675 into the Ravens.
We're doing math live on the job. Anywho, yeah, now that it is my turn, I started off the season buying Bengals stock. I was invested when they were 550 apiece from their last season win totals. Then I doubled down on them when they were 350 each. They are now up to 450, which is splitting the difference. I can sell them all right now, all 4 of my Bengals stocks, and break completely even and just get out of there. And because they're playing the Ravens, who I really believe in, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting out of Dodge. I'll consider reinvesting in them if they lose this week. If they win, just going to cut my losses and be like, all right, I should have kept them for a couple extra bucks, but I'm not really super worried about it. So I will be adding $1,800 to put myself up to $2,025. Oh, that's... There we go. In the bank account. And then I'm looking around here. I've made some money on the Patriots stocks. I'm going to go ahead and sell them as well. Add $675 to the balance, which puts me at $2,700.
And that's your 2 moves.
That is my 2 moves. And I will peruse the lists and see who I want to invest in.
Yeah, I mean that's a shit ton of money in the bank, man. Like
it's 2,700 bones.
You had a lot kind of locked up in those Bengals, and freeing that is gonna really help boost your profit margins here because now you're not working against something. My singular purchase for my 2 moves is going to be the purchase of an additional Rams stock. So they're currently going for 500. They're getting some healthy pieces back. They're looking good. And I'm going to go ahead and, drop an extra value on that. And that drops my bank account itself down to 125. And brings my Rams total up to 2, which is currently sitting at 1,000. And I've spent 700 acquiring the amount that's at 1,000. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping with the Ravens and with the Rams that their trajectory goes where I think it is going, and I'm kind of hoping I just kind of see some extra production for my other stocks here, who have kind of been skating a very equal line to my cost at purchase.
Yeah, I'm so tempted to just kind of blow it all up and restart. The only problem with that is I don't like any of the stocks that are not worth a ton of money. And investing in stocks that are worth a lot of money is kind of a risky business because if they drop one game, they lose a lot of that value. And that was my problem with investing in the Bengals is they started out slow. They're under 500, and I'm just kind of screwed for that. I think I'm going to sell my 49er stock as well. I have made $100 on it. They're such a odd team with some injury problems. They're getting Christian McCaffrey back, so now is probably the wrong time to sell. But man, you know what? I'm gonna hold on to him because they're getting McCaffrey back, and Ayuk is out for the year, but they're getting a little healthier as much as they can. So I'll hold on to him for now. I think if they drop another game, I can still break even on them because I invested in them at 900 and they're sitting at 1,000 right now. So if they lose another game, then I'll break even and I'll probably back out then. But I'm going to double up on the Dolphins, and instead of doubling up, I'm actually going to buy 2 additional shares of the Dolphins stock. So I'll be at 3, which means I've invested 350 and then 500 into 2 of them, putting me at 750 here and putting my bank account at 2,200. And now looking at this board of teams, I hear your Rams move, and I kind of like that. I also I just have a problem believing in so many of these teams, and a few of the ones in like the mid range play each other. So I'm like, I want to invest in them, but I don't want to dump the money into them this week and have them just lose, and then I'm down a bunch of money. I think I am going to put $1,000 into 2 Rams stocks.
A smart move. I can't say I disagree with owning 2 Ram stocks.
Yeah, and that'll take me down to 1,200, and I think I'm going to call my moves there. I'm just gonna say I'm done with it and see how this week of games goes. The 49ers play the Bucks. That was another team that I was looking to maybe invest in, but I don't know if I believe in the Bucks to beat the 49ers. I'm really flip-flopping on that pick'ems. And then Rams, I like how they look, fully healthy. They're looking good. They beat the Seahawks. Ravens are obviously looking good, and I invested in them when they were 500, so really happy with that investment. And then the Dolphins is just a low-cost investment that if they can start to figure things out a little bit more and put away some games, then I'll be sitting pretty with that one.
Yeah. Are you sure you don't want to drop, like, maybe buy 5 Saints stocks? Because, the whole interims win their first game. Want to risk that? Hey, I'm just saying, you got the money in your bank too, and I don't. So if it was my money, I'd obviously be doing it. Okay.
Bye, Elijah. It is time, after that wonderful stock segment, for NFL PickEms. And we are kicking off this week of PickEms with our franchise tagged game of the week. Bengals at Ravens, Thursday Night Football. Stamp it on up there. We are getting things kicked off the right way with a great Thursday night game. I've got the Ravens in this one. I just think they're a little bit better than the Bengals, and that is all.
Yep. I can match that. I mean, I think the Bengals are going to pass all over them, but it's going to be a clock control, run the ball, Ravens game, and the Ravens will take that one. Then I'll intro us into our other stamp of the week, our shit show of the week. We got the Giants at Panthers, and it's not even at Panthers. It's in fucking Germany. Sorry. This is what you get for World War I and II, and I have the Giants winning this one. I'm kind of flip-floppy on this because, Daniel Jones is kind of playing high-caliber football, but they still suck. And, on the flip side, the Panthers just come off a win against a team that sucks and fired a coach and had a whole thing. But I'm still going to be leaning with the Giants because of quarterback questions for the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm taking the Panthers in this one. I can't believe in the Giants. I just can't do it. I think they'll end up starting Bryce Young, and that will be the right decision. And we'll see how it goes from there. Check my Twitter just to make sure that I'm not changing that pick, because I am liable to change it if they decide that Andy Dalton is going to be their man of the hour against the Giants. Again, in Germany, it is punishment for the world wars. And then we get into the Patriots in Chicago against the Bears. I've got the Bears in this one. Every time I pick the Patriots, they lose, so I just can't believe in them. Even if I do think this is a winnable game for them, I think the Bears are just a little bit better than the Patriots. The Patriots are having a rough go of things so far this year.
Yeah, I think the Bears have definitely showed various weaknesses, and they've fallen to 4-4. But against the Patriots, now I have them winning. I'm hitting them with the lock of the week, but I'm not super confident in them as the lock of the week over some other ones. This is just the lock of the week strategy we got going on here at Franchise Tag. We switch it up every week. We don't do the same teams back to back, or actually at all, throughout the whole season. Try to keep it one team, one lock, whole year. So this is a strategic move here based on quality of opponent, not so much quality of the team I'm locking. My faith isn't there, but the ones I could lock elsewhere, I want to keep those in my back pocket for today. So I'm going to be sticking it with the Bears for my lock here. And then getting onto the Bills visiting the Colts, I have the Bills in this one. I can't trust a Colts team, and the Bills are just, actually good versus the Colts, who would need to, really battle against adversity to make playoffs here.
Yep, agreed. Bills better than Colts, so I'll pretty easily be taking them. Then Broncos, Chiefs, an equally easy game to pick. Taking the Chiefs in this one. Would love to see the Broncos upset them, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, AFC West games are always really tight because the Chiefs hate winning by more than one score. But yeah, Chiefs in this one. Next, we got Falcons at Saints. I mean, as I mentioned, there's the whole interim. I know you stared at me. The whole interim, head coach takes over and they win their first game. I still got the Falcons in this one. Okay. Sweat.
Guys, he's scared. Okay. Yes, Falcons in this one pretty easily over a depleted Saints team with a quarterback who loves throwing hospital balls. We didn't really talk about that too much, but he basically knocked 2 of his receivers out of the game. Michael Thomas kind of came at him, and I can't blame him.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Then 49ers at Bucks. I'm taking the Bucks in this one. I think McCaffrey will be on a pretty big snap count, and I don't think he'll make that much of a difference. The Bucks almost beat the Chiefs, and I think that speaks more for them than anything. So I'm throwing a little bit of a gamble on them, but I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I've got the 49ers in this one, and I definitely view these teams as very similar caliber. The Bucks, I feel, have been traded like they're worse than they are. But the deciding factor for me and the deciding factor for one of my future picks here is the 49ers are coming off of a bye week. They're hopefully going to be getting CMC back. Was it this game or was it next week? Like the week after this?
I don't even know, man.
I think he's supposed to be. We'll see if they end up lying about whatever's going on there. Yeah. But I'm sticking with the 49ers. They got that extra week of bye week game planning. And that leads directly into our next game of the Steelers at Commanders. I have the Steelers winning this one because of their bye week, that extra game planning. And the Commanders, they just beat the Giants. Pretty easy. Take the week off game to go and win. But that you still had to play the full football game. So the Steelers got that extra rest, and I think they're going to take the edge in this one.
I think the Steelers need to get themselves back down to around 500, and that starts with a loss here to the Commanders. So I'm taking the Commanders in this one. I just don't believe in the Russ-led Steelers that much. They've been doing really well so far, but they need to falter at some point, and I just think this is the most likely option for when they falter. And then we get into the game that I will be hitting with my lock of the week. That is the Vikings-Jags. I'll be taking the Vikings in this one. Have not locked the Vikings yet. This is one that I think the Vikings can pretty easily win. It's one that I feel is a lock caliber, not a forced lock like some of ours can be. And so I'm putting my lock record on this one.
Yeah, I see your Vikings Jags, and I considered your Vikings Jags, but next week the Vikings play the Titans, so I was like, I can wait a week. I agree though with the Vikings stampeding all over the Jaguars in this one. I've got the Titans going to the Chargers. I've got the Chargers in that one. We touched on it with the trades. The Titans fire sailed. They are kind of just washing the year away and hoping to get better next offseason.
They're doing the thing that the Steelers did with Russ, but with Will Levis, where it's like, yeah, he's hurt. Mm-hmm. He's hurt. Yeah, he's hurt.
Calf strain. Hurts.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers in this one. They're just a better team. Jim Harbaugh, better. Mm-hmm. Then Eagles at Cowboys. Jonathan Mingo's not going to be a difference maker. Dak is out. CD is week to week, so he's probably out. So you're going to have either Cooper Rush or Trey Lance throwing to Jonathan Mingo and Brandon
400
Cooks.
yards.
Brandon Cooks. I love Brandon Cooks, but it's just not going to work. Taking the Eagles pretty handedly in that one.
Yeah, I can agree with that one. The Cowboys just the best part of their offense was, okay, Dak can sometimes find CD, and guess what? You won't have this week that
Dak or CD.
Yeah, I got the Eagles in this one, and I hope Saquon just goes for like 400 yards and just he hurdles every single play just to flex on him, Mm-hmm. All right, and then we got the Jets at Cardinals. It's a crazy thing predicting a Cardinals game correct, and it feels, slightly more crazy. Just it's a real new feeling to me. So I'm gonna pick the Cardinals in this one. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. Go Cardinals. I think the Jets also are a team that needs to falter. They've started to look strong, and they need to drop one. They just need to be brought back down to earth. I don't know if the Cardinals pass rush is the one that's gonna, take Aaron Rodgers down, but something's got to happen. And I don't know. I just think the interim thing has got to wear out at some point for the Jets, even if they've only won one game with them. Then we got the Lions heading to Houston to play the Texans. My thing about teams faltering, I feel like it's got to happen at some point for the Lions too, but a banged up Texans team is not the one that's going to do it. So I'm taking the Lions in this one. I think they are different than most other teams where they've proven to me that they can actually do things correctly instead of teams that are squeaking out wins or going on lucky hot streaks, where the Lions are actually just on a dominant run. So I'll pretty easily be taking them in most games going forward, I think.
Yeah, especially with the slate they have coming up. Like, they're going on the road a lot, but it's not the highest difficulty. We're kind of making our way through the AFC South. So the Texans are the best of that, and when we are playing them at their worst, I've got the Lions in this one. And then that was Sunday Night Football. We didn't preface that, but onto our Monday Night Football game of the Dolphins at Rams. I've got the Rams in this one. Now, the Dolphins are electric with Tua back, but the Rams have Stafford. And if I'm calling a game that I think is going to be a close game, I'm going to lean the game with a guy who's really good under pressure in the fourth quarter, and that's going to be Stafford in my book. So I've got the Rams in this one.
Yeah, I'll take the Dolphins in this one. We've disagreed on a couple of them. I could see them going either way. All the ones that we've disagreed on, I could 100% see them all going your way. But I do believe in the Dolphins. I think they need to pick one up soon, and for stock's sake, I really hope they do. But yeah, Monday Night Football, that'll be a fun one to watch. Hopefully Tyreek goes off as well for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, you got so much bias right in on this game. Damn, man.
I really do. In my other league though, I've got Kyron, so I kind of am hoping that the Rams score a little bit. But anywho. That, I think, is just gonna just about do it for this episode of the podcast. If y'all have any thoughts, any additional insights into anything that we've talked about today, please leave them down in the comments below, and stick around for PickEms results next week and us talking about stuff for the rest of the season. This one's been a pretty fun one to record.
We keep talking about stuff. Don't worry about it.
We don't
every
stop.
week.
It's actually
we will talk about something.
Yeah, with that, I don't think do you have any words of wisdom for these people to lead or live their lives by?
Never be near Jerry Jones. And with
I was actually going to say, don't base your financial decisions on the backs of the Cowboys. They make poor decisions all the time.
Yes. And then also, I gotta give a shout out here because we got FTP. That's our our brand, our podcast. We got Brian Branch definitely really advocated for us this week. Really threw that FTP around out there on that field. So shout out Brian Branch. If it was my sole decision on who we made Player of the Weeks, it'd be Brian Branch this week, and it'd be two birds thrown, and it would be great. But
FTP, F the officials.
F the officials, F the backers, F.
Oh, true. Yeah, I forgot about that, huh?
There's a whole thing.
He was flipping off the refs though, not the Packers. F the prefs.
We also got the Lions fan base is for the pride, is FTP for the pride.
Oh, okay.
And that was a nice little turn on words for what most people think FTP means.
Yeah.
But those are my words of wisdom. Live your life by FTP, and don't go near Jerry Jones, please.
Deuces.